207. Assaka-Jātaka. Once with the great king Assaka, etc. This story the master told while staying in Jetavana monastery, about someone who was distracted by the recollection of a former wife. He asked the brother whether he were really lovesick. The man said, "Yes." "Whom are you in love with?" The master continued. "My late wife," was the reply. Then the master said, "Not this once only, brother. Have you been full of desire for this woman? In olden days her love brought you to great misery." And he told a story. Once upon a time, there was a king Assaka reigning in Potali, which is a city of the kingdom of Kasi. His queen wife, named Ubari, was very dear to him. She was charming, and graceful, and beautiful passing the beauty of women, though not so fair as a goddess. She died. And at her death, the king was plunged in grief, and became sad and miserable. He had the body laid in a coffin, and embalmed with oil and ointment, and laid beneath the bed. And there he lay without food, weeping and wailing. In vain did his parents and family, friends and courtiers, priests and laymen, asked him not to grieve, since all things pass away. They could not move him. As he lay in sorrow, 7 days passed by. Now the Bodhisattva was at that time an ascetic, who had gained the 5 supernatural faculties and the 8 attainments. He lived at the foot of Himalaya. He was possessed of perfect supernatural insight, and as he looked round India with his heavenly vision, he saw this king mourning, and straightway resolved to help him. By his miraculous power he rose in the air, and descended in the king's park, and sat down on the ceremonial stone, like a golden image. A young Brahmin of the city of Potali entered the park, and seeing the Bodhisattva, he greeted him and sat down. The Bodhisattva began to talk pleasantly with him. "Is the king a just ruler?" he asked. "Yes, sir, the king is just," replied the youth. "But his queen is just dead. He has laid her body in a coffin, and lies down mourning her. And today is the 7th day since he began. Why do you not free the king from this great grief? Virtuous beings like you should overcome the king's sorrow." "I do not know the king, young man," said the Bodhisattva. "But if he were to come and ask me, I would tell him the place where she has now come into the flesh again, and make her speak herself. Then, holy sir, stay here until I bring the king to you," said the youth. The Bodhisattva agreed, and he moved fast into the king's presence, and told him about it. "You should visit this being with the divine insight," he told the king. The king was overjoyed at the thought of seeing Ubari, and he entered his chariot and drove to the place. Greeting the Bodhisattva, he sat down on one side, and asked, "Is it true, as I am told, that you know where my queen has come into being again?" "Yes, I do, my lord king," replied he. Then the king asked where it was. The Bodhisattva replied, "O king, she was intoxicated with her beauty, and so fell into negligence and did not do fair and virtuous acts. So now she has become a little dung worm in this very park." "I don't believe it," said the king. "Then I will show her to you, and make her speak," answered the Bodhisattva. "Please make her speak," said the king. The Bodhisattva commanded, "Let the 2 that are busy rolling a lump of cow dung come on before the king." And by his power he made them do it, and they came. The Bodhisattva pointed one out to the king. "There is your queen Ubari, O king. She has just come out of this lump, following her husband the dung worm. Look and see." "What? My queen Ubari a dung worm? I don't believe it," cried the king. "I will make her speak, O king. I request, make her speak, holy sir," said he. The Bodhisattva by his power gave her speech. "Abari," said he. "What is it, holy sir?" She asked, in a human voice. "What was your name in your former character?" The Bodhisattva asked her. "My name was Abari, sir," she replied, "the wife of King Assaka." "Tell me," the Bodhisattva went on, "which do you love best now, King Assaka, or this dung worm?" "Oh sir, that was my former birth," said she. "Then I lived with him in this park, enjoying shape and sound, scent, taste and touch. But now that my memory is confused by rebirth, what is he? Why, now I would kill King Assaka, and would smear the feet of my husband the dung worm with the blood flowing from his throat." And in the midst of the king's company, she uttered these verses in a human voice. "Once with the great King Assaka, who was my husband dear, beloving and beloved, I walked about this garden here. But now new sorrows and new joys have made the old ones flee, and dearer far than Assaka my worm is now to me." When King Assaka heard this, he repented on the spot. And at once he caused the queen's body to be removed and washed his head. He saluted the Bodhisattva, and went back into the city, where he married another queen, and ruled in righteousness. And the Bodhisattva, having instructed the king, and set him free from sorrow, returned again to the Himalayas. When the master had ended this discourse, he explained the truths and identified the birth. At the conclusion of the truths, the lovesick brother reached the fruit of the first path. "Your late wife was Abari. You, the lovesick brother, were King Assaka. Sariputra was the young Brahmin. And the hermit was I myself." Jataka number 208. Sumsumara Jataka. Rose apple, jackfruit, etc. This story the master told at Jetavana monastery, about Devadatta's attempts to murder him. When he heard of these attempts, the master said, "This is not the first time that Devadatta has tried to murder me. He did the same before, and yet could not so much as make me afraid." Then he told this story. Once upon a time, while Brahmadatta was king of Benares, the Bodhisattva came to life at the foot of Himalaya as a monkey. He grew strong and sturdy, big of frame, well-to-do, and lived by a curve of the river Ganges in a forest haunt. Now at that time there was a crocodile living in the Ganges. The crocodile's mate saw the great frame of the monkey, and she conceived a longing for his heart to eat. So she said to her lord, "Sir, I desire to eat the heart of that great king of the monkeys." "Good wife," said the crocodile, "I live in the water and he lives on dry land. How can we catch him?" "By hook or by crook," she replied, "caught he must be. If I don't get him, I shall die." "All right," answered the crocodile, consoling her, "don't trouble yourself. I have a plan. I will give you his heart to eat." So when the Bodhisattva was sitting on the bank of the Ganges, after taking a drink of water, the crocodile came near, and said, "Sir Monkey, why do you live on had fruits in this old familiar place? On the other side of the Ganges, there is no end to the mango trees, and labuja trees, with fruits sweet as honey. Is it not better to cross over and have all kinds of wild fruit to eat?" "Lord Crocodile," the monkey made answer, "deep and wide is the Ganges. How shall I get across? If you will go, I will mount you on my back, and carry you over." The monkey trusted him, and agreed. "Come here, then," said the other, "up on my back with you." And up the monkey climbed. But when the crocodile had swum a little way, he plunged the monkey under the water. "Good friend, you are letting me sink," cried the monkey. "What is that for?" said the crocodile. "You think I'm carrying you out of pure good nature. Not a bit of it. My wife has a longing for your heart, and I want to give it her to eat." "Friend," said the monkey, "it is nice of you to tell me. Why, if our heart were inside us when we go jumping among the tree tops, it would be all knocked to pieces. Well, where do you keep it?" asked the other. The Bodhisattva pointed out a fig tree, with clusters of ripe fruit, standing not far off. "See," said he, "there are our hearts hanging on the fig tree." "If you will show me your heart," said the crocodile, "then I won't kill you. Take me to the tree, then, and I will point it out to you hanging upon it." The crocodile brought him to the place. The monkey leapt off his back, and climbing up the fig tree sat upon it. "Oh silly crocodile," said he, "you thought that there were creatures that kept their hearts in a tree top. You are a fool, and I have outwitted you. You may keep your fruit to yourself. Your body is great, but you have no sense." And then to explain this idea he uttered the following stanzas. "Rose apple, jackfruit, mangoes too across the water there I see. Enough of them, I want them not. My fig is good enough for me. Great is your body, truly, but how much smaller is your wit. Now go your ways, Sir Crocodile, for I have had the best of it." The crocodile, feeling as sad and miserable as if he had lost 1,000 pieces of money, went back sorrowing to the place where he lived. When the master had ended this discourse, he identified the birth. In those days Devadatta was the crocodile, the lady Chincha was his mate, and I was the monkey. Jataka number 209. Assaka-Jātaka. Trees a many have I seen, etc. This story the master told while living at Jetavana monastery, about a brother who was one of the fellow students of elder monk Sariputra, captain of the faith. This fellow, as we learn, was clever at taking care of his person. Food very hot or very cold he would not eat, for fear it should do him harm. He never went out for fear of being hurt by cold or heat. And he would not have rice which was either over-boiled or too hard. The brotherhood learnt how much care he took of himself. In the Hall of Truth, they all discussed it. "Friend, what a clever fellow brother so and so is in knowing what is good for him." The master came in, and asked what they were talking of as they sat there together. They told him. Then he replied, "Not only now is our young friend careful for his personal comfort. He was just the same in olden days." And he told them an old world tale. Once upon a time, in the reign of Brahmadatta, king of Benares, the Bodhisattva became a tree spirit in a forest glade. A certain hunter, with a decoy bird, hair noose, and stick, went into the forest in search of birds. He began to follow one old bird which flew off into the woods, trying to escape. The bird would not give him a chance of catching it in his snare, but kept rising and descending, rising and descending. So the hunter covered himself with twigs and branches, and set his noose and stick again and again. But the bird, wishing to make him ashamed of himself, sent on a human voice and repeated the first stanza. "Trees a many have I seen growing in the woodland green. But, O tree, they could not do any such strange things as you." So saying, the bird flew off and went elsewhere. When it had gone, the hunter repeated the second verse. "This old bird, that knows the snare, off has flown into the air. On from out his cage has broken, and with human voice has spoken." So said the hunter, and having hunted through the woods, took what he could catch and went home again. When the master had ended this discourse, he identified the birth. Devadatta was the hunter then, the young dandy was the bird, and the tree fairy that saw the whole thing was I myself.